SOS that forced Earth to show its true military power. Captain Alice Okafor pressed her palm against the observation window of the cargo vessel Distant Hope, watching the asteroid field drift past in silent majesty. The ship hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-maintained freighter. But after 8 months hauling rare Earth minerals from the Outer Rim colonies back to human space, even the most beautiful stellar formations had lost their wonder. "Captain," called navigator Dmitry Volkov from his station, his Russian accent cutting through the bridge's ambient noise. "I'm picking up something odd on the long-range sensors." Alice pushed off from the window, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal deck plating as she moved to Dmitry's workstation. The Distant Hope was a civilian vessel, built for cargo transport rather than combat, but her crew of 15 had been together for 3 years. They trusted each other completely. "What kind of odd?" she asked, studying the sensor display over Dmitry's shoulder. "Debris field, maybe 12 hours old. But it's not natural breakup, these are hull fragments, power core signatures, the works." Dmitry's fingers danced across his console, refining the readings. "Captain, I think we're looking at the remains of multiple ships." Chief Engineer Daiki Ogawa floated over from the power distribution panel, his Japanese features creased with concern. "Any life signs? Survivors?" "Running full spectrum scans now," Dmitry replied. "Wait, yes, I'm detecting faint energy signatures. Could be emergency beacons, but they're very weak." Alice felt her stomach tighten. Deep space was dangerous enough without having to worry about ship-to-ship combat. Pirates were rare in this sector, but not unheard of. How far out of our way would it be to investigate? 6 hours at full burn, Dmitry calculated. We'd still make our delivery window, but barely. Medical Officer Dr. Kenji Osworth pushed off from the bulkhead where he'd been listening. He was young for a chief medical officer, but his skills had saved more than one crew member during their long hauls. "Captain, if there are survivors out there, 6 hours could mean the difference between life and death." Alice nodded slowly. The Distant Hope wasn't a rescue vessel, but they were the only human ship in this part of space. If they didn't help, no one would. "Dmitry, set course for the debris field. Daiki, give me everything the engines can handle without damaging the cargo." "Aye, Captain," both men replied in unison. As the ship changed course, Alice couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading towards something much bigger than a simple rescue operation. 4 hours later, the debris field stretched before them like a graveyard of metal and dreams. The remains of at least 6 ships floated in a loose cluster, their twisted hulls telling a story of violence and destruction. Most of the wreckage belonged to vessels Alice didn't recognize alien designs with flowing curves and crystalline components that caught the light of distant stars. "By the saints!" whispered Communications Officer Priya Malhotra, her Indian accent thick with emotion. "Look at the size of some of these ships." The largest piece of debris had once been a massive vessel, easily 3 times the size of the Distant Hope. Its hull was a deep blue-green color that seemed to shift in the starlight, and even in its destroyed state, it was beautiful. The smaller ships that had attacked it were clearly built for one purpose: war. "I'm reading atmosphere in several sections of the large ship," Dr. Osworth reported from the medical station. "There could still be people alive in there." "Captain," Dmitry called urgently, "I'm picking up an active distress beacon. It's broadcasting on multiple frequencies, including some I don't recognize." "Put it on speakers," Alice ordered. The bridge filled with static and broken transmissions. Through the interference, they could hear voices clearly not human, but unmistakably desperate. The universal translator that all human ships carried began working on the alien languages, slowly piecing together words and phrases. "This is cargo vessel, under attack. Have injured, need assistance. Please respond." The message repeated, getting weaker each time. Alice looked around at her crew, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. They were cargo haulers, not heroes, but they couldn't ignore people in need. "Dmitry, scan for any operational ships in the area. I want to know who did this and if they're still around." "Scanning now. Negative on active vessels, Captain. Whoever attacked this convoy is long gone." "Daiki, can we get close enough to dock with the large ship?" The engineer studied his displays carefully. "It'll be tricky. The hull is breached in multiple places, and the ship is slowly spinning. but I can match rotation and get us close to what looks like an intact airlock. Do it, Priya. Keep monitoring all frequencies. If whoever did this comes back, I want to know immediately. As the Distant Hope maneuvered closer to the alien vessel, Alice felt a mix of excitement and dread. First contact with a new species should have been a moment of celebration, but these circumstances were far from ideal. The docking procedure took nearly an hour. The alien ship was massive up close, its hull covered in intricate patterns that might have been decorative or functional. Through the thick viewports, they could see the vessel's interior was filled with a soft, bioluminescent glow. Airlock sealed and pressurized, Daiki reported. Atmosphere on the other side is oxygen-nitrogen mix, but with higher humidity and some trace gases, our suits can filter out. Dr. Osworth, you're with me, Alice decided. Dimitri, you have the bridge. If anything goes wrong, you get our people out of here. Captain, maybe I should, Priya started. Someone needs to mind the communications. If we find survivors, we might need to call for help, and your linguistic skills could be crucial. Alice and Dr. Osworth made their way to the airlock, donning their environment suits and checking their portable medical equipment. The doctor had packed everything he could think of: universal antibiotics, surgical tools, emergency life support systems. The airlock cycled open to reveal a corridor that was both alien and strangely familiar. The walls curved organically, as if grown rather than built, but the basic layout was logical main passageways, branching corridors, clear sightlines for movement. Emergency lighting cast everything in a pale green glow. Life signs are coming from the central section, Dr. Osworth said, checking his scanner. Multiple contacts, but some are very weak. They moved through the ship carefully, their magnetic boots keeping them anchored to the deck. The vessel had artificial gravity, but it was fluctuating, sometimes dropping to near zero before returning to normal. Blast damage was evident everywhere: scorched walls, twisted metal, shattered crystalline components that might have been control panels. The first survivors they found were in what appeared to be a medical bay. 3 alien beings floated in treatment pods, their bodies connected to life support systems that pulsed with the same bioluminescent glow as the ship's lighting. They were humanoid, but clearly non-human, tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer between blue and green, and large eyes that reflected the emergency lighting like jewels. Are they, Alice started to ask. Alive but barely, Dr. Osworth confirmed, running his medical scanner over the nearest pod. These systems are keeping them stable, but they're failing. I need to get them back to our ship. As they worked to carefully extract the survivors from their pods, Alice heard footsteps in the corridor. She spun around, her hand instinctively moving to the emergency flare pistol at her belt, the only weapon civilian vessels were allowed to carry. An alien figure appeared in the doorway, moving slowly and clearly injured. This one was conscious, though, and when it saw the humans, it spoke in a melodious voice that the translator converted to accented English. Please, you must help them. The children. We're trying to help, Alice said gently. I'm Captain Okafor of the human vessel Distant Hope. What happened here? The alien's large eyes focused on her with effort. I am Navigator Lysa of the Harmony's Dream. We were returning from the Kepler colonies when they attacked. Pirates. They wanted our cargo, but when we refused to surrender the civilian passengers, the alien's voice broke. How many survivors? Dr. Osworth asked, his medical training overriding his awe at meeting a new species. 17 in the medical bay, 8 in the emergency shelter near the cargo hold. The children, please, the children must live. Alice activated her comm unit. Dimitri, I need you to bring the ship around to the cargo section. We have multiple survivors and we need to evacuate them immediately. Copy that, Captain. How many are we talking about? 25 total, including children. And Dimitri, send a message to Earth. Priority Alpha, we need to report this. As they worked to save the survivors, Navigator Lisa told them what had happened. The Harmony's Dream had been part of a small convoy carrying civilians and trade goods between the outer colonies and the homeworld of the Zalani Republic. The ships had been attacked by a group calling themselves the Iron Fang Consortium Pirates, who had been growing bolder in recent months, attacking not just cargo vessels, but passenger liners as well. The authorities do nothing, Lisa said bitterly as Dr. Osworth treated her injuries. They say it is a problem for the outer systems to solve. The Galactic Trade Commission claims no jurisdiction. The major powers ignore us because we are small, weak. Well, you're not alone anymore, Alice said firmly. We'll get you home. It took 8 hours to evacuate all the survivors. The Distant Hope was crowded with refugees. Her cargo holds converted to temporary living quarters. Dr. Osworth worked tirelessly to treat the injured, while Priya used her communication skills to help establish basic communication with the Zalani. The children were the hardest to see. 6 younglings, their large eyes filled with trauma and confusion, clinging to the few adults who had survived. Alice found herself spending time with them, using simple gestures and the ship's translation systems to offer what comfort she could. "Captain," Dimitri called from the bridge, "I've got the course laid in for the Zalani homeworld. But that's 3 weeks away, and our life support systems weren't designed for this many people." "We'll make it work," Alice replied. "What about the message to Earth?" "Sent 6 hours ago. Should reach Terra Command in about 48 hours with the quantum relay boosters." Alice nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling that 48 hours might be too long. The Iron Fang Consortium was still out there, and if they learned about the survivors... Her fears proved justified 12 hours later when proximity alarms began screaming throughout the ship. "Captain, to the bridge." Dimitri's voice carried barely controlled panic. "We have company, and they're not friendly." Alice raced to the bridge to find her crew staring at the tactical display in horror. 4 ships had dropped out of hyperspace around them, sleek, predatory vessels that looked like they'd been designed by someone who enjoyed violence. "They're hailing us," Priya reported, her voice tight with fear. On screen. The face that appeared on the main display was humanoid, but clearly altered by cybernetic implants. Metal plates replaced portions of skin, and one eye had been replaced with a glowing red sensor. When the figure spoke, its voice was harsh and mechanical. "Human vessel, you are carrying stolen property. Surrender the Zalani survivors, and we will allow you to leave unharmed." "This is Captain Okafor of the civilian vessel Distant Hope," Alice replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. "These are refugees under our protection. We will not surrender them." The cyborg's metal face twisted into what might have been a smile. "Protection? You are a cargo hauler with no weapons and minimal shielding. We are the Iron Fang Consortium. We have destroyed entire fleets. Your protection is worthless." "We're in neutral space," Alice said. "You have no legal authority here. We have the authority of superior firepower. You have 30 seconds to surrender the Zalani, or we will take them from your wreckage." The transmission ended, and Alice turned to her crew. They were all looking at her with a mixture of fear and determination. These were good people, every one of them, but they were not soldiers. "Options?" she asked quietly. "Our engines are faster than theirs," Daiki reported. "If we dump the cargo and push the reactor past safety limits, we might be able to outrun them." "The cargo bay has been converted to living quarters," Dr. Osworth pointed out. "We can't dump it without killing half the survivors." "And even if we could outrun them, they just follow us to the Zalani homeworld," Dimitri added grimly. Alice closed her eyes for a moment, thinking. In the cargo hold below, 25 innocent beings were depending on her to keep them safe. 6 children who had already lost everything they knew. She opened her eyes and looked at her crew. "Send the message," she said quietly. "Captain?" Priya asked, confused. "The emergency message. All frequencies, maximum power. Tell them we have refugees under attack by pirates. Tell them we need help." "Captain," Dimitri said gently, "there's no one out here. The nearest military vessel is weeks away." "Send it anyway. Sometimes help comes from unexpected places." As Priya activated the distress beacon, the Iron Fang ships began moving closer. Their weapon systems charged with an ominous glow, and Alice knew they had perhaps minutes before the attack began. Then something impossible happened. 4 new contacts appeared on the edge of sensor range, moving faster than anything Alice had ever seen. They were large, much larger than the pirate vessels, and they moved with perfect coordination, like a pack of wolves closing in on their prey. "Captain," Dimitri whispered, his voice filled with awe. "Those are human ships." but I've never seen designs like these before. The lead vessel was enormous, easily the size of a battlecruiser, but sleek and deadly looking. The others were smaller but still impressive, moving in formation like they'd been built to fight together. As they approached, one of them hailed the Distant Hope. "Civilian vessel Distant Hope, this is Commander Raven Blackwood of the Terran Defense Force. We received a distress call. Please maintain your current position while we resolve this situation." Alice stared at the communication panel in shock. "Terran Defense Force? I've never heard of..." Her words were cut off as the lead pirate ship hailed the newcomers. The cyborg's face appeared on screen again, but now he looked uncertain. "Unknown vessels, you are interfering with Iron Fang Consortium business. This is your only warning. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The response came immediately, and Commander Blackwood's voice was calm but carried an edge of steel that made Alice's spine tingle. "Iron Fang Consortium vessel, this is the TDF Retribution. You have threatened civilian refugees and attacked unarmed vessels. You have exactly 60 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender, or we will consider you hostile." The cyborg's mechanical laugh echoed through the speakers. "Humans! You are weak traders and explorers. We have terrorized this sector for years and no one has been able to stop us. Your threats are meaningless." 50 seconds, Commander Blackwood replied conversationally. "You think 4 ships can defeat the Iron Fang? We have conquered systems, enslaved entire species. Your pathetic fleet is no match for our battle-tested warriors." 30 seconds! "We will take your ships and sell your crews on the slave markets of Valon. Attack formation. Show these humans what real power looks like." "Time's up," Commander Blackwood said quietly. What happened next changed everything Alice thought she knew about her own species. The human ships didn't just fight back, they moved like nothing she had ever seen. Fast, precise, coordinated like parts of a single organism. The lead ship, the Retribution, fired first, and its energy beam cut through the largest pirate vessel's shields like they were made of tissue paper. The other human ships, the Thunderstrike, Stormcaller, and Vengeance, spread out in perfect formation, surrounding the remaining pirates and hitting them from multiple angles. Their weapon systems were unlike anything in the civilian databases: coherent energy beams that could slice through armor, particle cannons that could disable entire ships with a single shot. But it was the Retribution that truly showed the galaxy something new. Its main weapon charged up with a sound like rolling thunder, and when it fired, the energy beam was so intense it lit up the entire sector. The lead pirate ship simply vanished. Not destroyed, not disabled, completely vaporized in an instant. The remaining 2 pirate vessels tried to flee, but the human ships were faster. Within minutes, 1 more pirate ship was destroyed, and the 3rd was caught in some kind of tractor beam, unable to move. "Distant Hope, this is Commander Blackwood. The threat has been neutralized. Prepare to receive medical assistance for your refugees." Alice could barely find her voice. "Commander, how did you get here so fast? What are those ships?" "We'll explain everything once we get your people proper medical care, Captain. For now, let's focus on keeping everyone safe." As rescue shuttles launched from the human fleet, Alice turned to her crew. They were all staring at the tactical display in amazement, watching the massive human warships maintain their protective formation around the Distant Hope. "Captain," Dimitri said quietly, "I don't think we're the same species that left Earth as peaceful explorers." Navigator Lisa, who had been brought to the bridge to witness the rescue, looked at Alice with her large, luminous eyes. "Captain Okafor, your people. They came when we called for help. No one else would, but they came." "That's what humans do," Alice replied, though she was beginning to realize she might not know what humans truly did at all. An hour later, Alice found herself aboard the Retribution, standing in a conference room that was unlike anything she'd ever seen on a civilian vessel. The walls were lined with tactical displays showing ship positions, threat analyses, and communication intercepts from across the galaxy. This was clearly a military vessel, but one that had been built in secret. Commander Raven Blackwood was a tall woman with short black hair and intense green eyes. She wore a uniform that Alice didn't recognize, similar to Earth Fleet designs, but with additional insignia and equipment that suggested combat operations. "Captain Okafor, you and your crew performed admirably out there. Commander Blackwood said, staying to help refugees, refusing to abandon them even when faced with superior firepower that takes courage. Commander, I have to ask, how long has Earth had ships like this? I've been hauling cargo for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like your fleet. Blackwood smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. About 12 years for the first generation. These ships are fourth-generation designs. We've been building them at hidden facilities throughout the outer system, hoping we'd never need to use them. Why the secrecy? Because the galaxy needed to see us as harmless traders and explorers, not as a potential threat. While everyone else was playing politics and ignoring the growing pirate problem, we were learning. Studying alien technology, analyzing their tactics, preparing for the day when someone would push too far. Dr. Osworth, who had been invited to the meeting, leaned forward. The Iron Fang Consortium, they've been operating for years. Why act now? Because they made a mistake, Commander Blackwood replied. They attacked civilians in the presence of humans. That's a line we won't allow anyone to cross. Alice looked around the conference room, taking in the advanced technology and military efficiency. How many ships like this does Earth have? Enough, was all Commander Blackwood would say. Captain, your rescue of the Zalani survivors is going to change things. Word is already spreading through the galaxy that humans have a military capability no one suspected. Some species will be grateful, others will be frightened. The question is, what happens next? As if in answer to her question, the ship's communication officer approached the table. Commander, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Some are requesting assistance with pirate problems, others are demanding explanations from Earth Command. And the Galactic Trade Commission? They're calling for an emergency session. They want to know why Earth has been hiding military assets. Commander Blackwood stood and walked to the main display, which showed a star map of the local sector. Red markers indicated known pirate activity, while green markers showed civilian shipping routes. There were far too many red markers. For 12 years, we've watched the major powers ignore the suffering of smaller species because it wasn't profitable to help them. We've seen the Trade Commission turn a blind eye to piracy because it didn't affect their core roots. We've witnessed the slow collapse of law and order in the outer systems while the inner worlds grew fat and comfortable. She turned back to face Alice and Dr. Osworth. That ends now. Today, we're announcing the Terran Protection Initiative. Any civilian vessel that sends a distress call in human space will receive immediate assistance. Any pirate organization that threatens innocent lives will be hunted down and destroyed. Any government that turns a blind eye to slavery and murder will find that humans have very long memories. Commander, Alice said carefully, that sounds like you're preparing for war. No, Captain, we're preparing to prevent war. The galaxy has forgotten what it means to have consequences for evil actions. We're going to remind them. Over the next several days, as the human fleet escorted the Distant Hope and her refugees towards Zalani space, the galaxy began to react to the news of humanity's hidden military strength. The response was everything Commander Blackwood had predicted and more. Some species reached out immediately, asking for help with their own pirate problems. The peaceful Thraki Federation had been losing trade ships to raiders for months, and their requests for assistance had been ignored by the major powers. The mining colonies of the Kepler Nebula had been paying tribute to protection rackets because they had no other choice. But the major galactic powers were not pleased. The hegemony of Vorthan, one of the largest military forces in the galaxy, issued a formal protest about Earth's militaristic deception. The Corporate Assembly of Zirion, which controlled most of the galaxy's trade routes, demanded that Earth submit to Trade Commission oversight. The most interesting response came from the Zalani Republic itself. When the human fleet arrived at the Zalani homeworld of Lyareth, they were met not by a small diplomatic vessel, but by the entire Zalani defense fleet, 27 ships of various sizes, all broadcasting messages of gratitude and friendship. President Varys of the Zalani Republic came aboard the Retribution personally to thank the human crews. She was an elderly Zalani with silver skin that seemed to glow with inner light, and when she spoke, her words carried the weight of genuine emotion. Commander Blackwood, Captain Okafor, you have saved not just the lives of our people, but our faith in the possibility of justice in this galaxy. For too long, we have been told that the strong prey upon the weak, and that this is simply the natural order. You have shown us that there is another way. The ceremony was broadcast throughout Zalani space and beyond. Images of human officers standing alongside alien civilians, of human medical teams treating wounded refugees, of human warships providing escort for helpless cargo vessels, these scenes spread across the galactic communication networks like wildfire. But the most powerful moment came when young Kes, one of the Zalani children rescued from the Harmony's dream, presented Captain Okafor with a small crystal pendant, a traditional Zalani symbol of family adoption. "You are my big sister now," the child said in halting English, having learned the words specifically for this moment. "You saved us when no one else would." The image of the human cargo captain kneeling to accept the gift from the alien child became one of the most shared recordings in galactic history. It showed the galaxy something they had never seen before, a species that was willing to risk everything for people they had never met. 6 months later, the galaxy was a very different place. The Terran Protection Initiative had grown from a single fleet to a network of rapid response forces stationed throughout human space and beyond. The Iron Fang Consortium had been completely eliminated, their leadership captured or killed, their ships destroyed or converted to humanitarian use. But the humans had not stopped there. Working with species like the Zalani, they had formed the Civilian Protection Alliance, a mutual defense pact focused not on territorial expansion or resource control, but on the simple principle that innocent people deserve to be safe. The major powers were not happy with these developments. The hegemony of Vorthan had increased their military spending by 300%, claiming they needed to defend against human aggression. The Corporate Assembly had attempted to implement trade sanctions against Earth, only to discover that their member corporations were making too much money from human trade to support the measure. Captain Alice Okafor, now promoted to Admiral and commanding the Civilian Protection Fleet, stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Hope's Guardian. The ship was a hybrid design part cargo vessel, part rescue ship, part light cruiser. It represented everything the Terran Protection Initiative stood for, strength in service of others. Admiral, called her new communications officer Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, "We're receiving a distress call from the Altair system. Pirate attack on a medical convoy." Alice smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, but it was a satisfied one. "Set course for Altair, maximum speed, signal the Thunderstrike and Stormcaller to rendezvous with us there." "Should I notify the Galactic Trade Commission?" asked her executive officer, Commander Priya Malhotra, who had followed Alice from the distant Hope. "After we save the convoy. Some things can't wait for bureaucracy." As the Hope's Guardian jumped to hyperspace, Alice thought about the message that had started it all. One desperate call for help had revealed humanity's true nature to the galaxy. They weren't conquerors or politicians or traders looking for profit. They were protectors, and they would continue to be protectors as long as innocent people needed them. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate the species that builds its greatest weapons not to conquer others, but to defend those who cannot defend themselves. And never, ever send a distress call where humans can hear it, because they will come running, ready to fight anyone who threatens the innocent. Earth had revealed its true military power, and the galaxy would never be the same. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned what humans truly valued. Not strength for its own sake, but strength in service of justice. Not power to dominate, but power to protect. In the end, that made all the difference. The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying Earth's promise to the stars. As long as the innocent called for help, humanity would answer. No matter the cost, no matter the odds, no matter how far from home they had to go. Because that's what humans do.